Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
The Stock Movers Report, your roundup of companies making moves in the stock market, harnessing the power of Bloomberg data.
Let's take a look at some stocks on the move today in Europe. I'm Tom McKenzie with Stephen Carroll. We're joined by Bloomberg reporter Chloe Millet. Chloe, let's start with Bayer, which makes agricultural products. The company making progress on its appeal against lawsuits targeting one of its top-selling weed killers.
Yeah, so it was a massive jump in the shares for Bayer this morning after the Trump administration has urged the U.S. Supreme Court to take up its appeal related to, as you say, those lawsuits against its weed killer. So it's Roundup weed killer. That's a product that Bayer inherited from its acquisition of Monsanto in 2018, and it's been fighting for years now against claims that Roundup causes cancer. So the company has already paid more than $10 billion in verdicts and settlements, and it's still facing about 67,000 claims from plaintiffs. So this development here is seen as a win. It's quite a complicated thing with a lot of legal jargon, but as I understand it, essentially, Bayer executives are hoping to knock out thousands of cases against Roundup that include claims that the company failed to properly warn consumers about cancer risks. So it would have to maybe not pay as many settlements. So Bayer shares have jumped on that news. They've actually been doing pretty well so far, but overall that litigation has meant that the stock is down about 70% since that Monsanto deal in 2018. So this is definitely seen as a much needed boost for Bayer.
Yeah, Bayer shares currently almost 12% higher in Germany. Turning to the UK next, and Persimmon, the home builder, their shares up almost 2% this morning. What's that linked to?
Yeah, so Persimmon, but also other house builders like Taylor Wimpey, British Land, etc. They've all moved a little bit higher this morning because of new nationwide data that showed that UK house prices rose for the third consecutive month. So that is actually a sign that the UK housing market is resilient and more resilient than was feared in the run-up to the budget. So it looks like buyers were not too fazed by the reports of tax hikes in the budget, including the reports that turned out to be true about that mansion tax. And so going forward, the fact that the measures from Rachel Reeves were not maybe as far-reaching as some had anticipated might mean that we see an even further boost in those house prices. There was also other data that was another sign of resilient demand. We had Bank of England data on Monday that showed that the number of mortgage approval dipped a little bit less than expected in October. So it seems that there is that resilience there in that housing market, and therefore we are seeing those house builders benefiting from that optimism and that momentum in that sector.
Yeah, and of course we are counting down as well to the Bank of England's December interest rate decision, with markets pricing at about a 90% chance that they cut interest rates then, and about a 25% chance that they cut again in February. Also in focus, talking of real estate, we're thinking about banks, of course, and this time the lens on Santander Polska, the Polish unit then of the Spanish banking giant, being sold for close to what, half a billion US dollars.
Yeah, so Santander has disposed of another 3.5% in Santander Polska, which is the Polish subsidiary. So this is part of an ongoing process of moving away from Santander Polska. So it sold the controlling stake to Erste Bank earlier this year, and it's now moving further and further away, and that's led shares down for Santander Polska. And this is part of Santander refocusing a lot of its international operations. So currently Santander still holds about 58.7% in that Polish bank, but that will fall to just under 10% once the planned sales to Erste has been completed, and that will be around the end of this year. And so the bank has now earmarked half of those proceeds for buybacks, and then some of it as well to buy the UK unit from Sabadell, which is TSB, and it's also focusing on investing in growth in the Americas. And so we are seeing Santander Polska moving a little bit lower this morning because of Santander moving away and refocusing away from the Polish banking sector.
The Stock Movers Report from Bloomberg Radio. Check back with us throughout the day for the latest roundup of companies making news on Wall Street. And for the latest market-moving headlines, listen to Bloomberg Radio live. Catch us on YouTube, Bloomberg.com, and on Apple CarPlay and Android Auto with the Bloomberg Business app.